studios. When is a bust a bust? Woman in Illinois has had multiples. A woman in Illinois? No, it's not a woman. It's a guy who became a woman. A woman in Illinois had multiple surgeries to get a size 38 GG bust, and she still wants to go bigger. After getting gender-affirming surgery, Zinnie Zounds, 38 years dumb, now has a 7.5 pounds of bust on her chest. Hopes to make a living off of entertaining people and becoming myself, which is kind of awkward and ironic because the more surgeries she has, the more distance he puts in between him and being his real self. It's just amazing. 7.5 pounds, and he decides, or she decides, she wants more. All right, I'll not ask the good professor to even comment on that. Mississippi College, latest international changes with Russia. Well, unless you wanted to, of course, you can comment. 7 pounds.
I can't even imagine.
I don't even know what a 38 GG bust is.
It's like trillions now, like when we had billions, I think we're GG.
Where do you get your support, your brassiere? Do you go to a tent and awning company for to get taken care of? So I just we are living in a bizarre world. There is a movie out there called. Is it called, you guys can help me out here, Idiosyncrasy or Idiots or something like that? Have you seen it?
No.
Idiocracy.
Idiocracy. Have you seen it, Lance?
About 1,000 times. It's one of my favorite
Are you
movies.
Serious?
Yeah, I love it.
I watched 30 minutes of that, and I'm dumber for it.
Oh, it's amazing. It's just such a look into the future. I mean, the opening credits are the best.
For you folks who don't know this, it's a guy who's being frozen, and he comes back. And the year, was it 2025?
It was like 2,500. He got frozen for It was supposed to be out for a year, and then he gets stuck for like 500 years.
And everything, Professor, everything is dumber. And we thought the opposite was going to happen. But everything is dumber. And I thought, man, I guess the reason I could only watch that 30 minutes is because it scared me a little bit. He may be right. So I don't know. Where do we start on here? I just tweeted this out, and if you're just watching it, the daughter of Alexander Sapon, and Alexander is the head of the Ukrainian draft board, posted a video. His daughter posted a video of her vacationing in Los Angeles and Miami. And this is not good photo op, and you would think that they would know better than this, number one. Then we had a story that was a couple of 3 weeks ago. Somebody's mama, I think it was Zelensky's mother or mother-in-law, somebody bought a mansion somewhere in another country. So all of these things are happening. And on the heels of that, we also had yesterday the president and the administration announcing another $1 billion in aid.
Yeah, I saw that.
Where is this thing going? What are you thinking? Where are we headed here? Are we losing favor? I think we are among the Republicans, but not all.
Yeah, no, I think that obviously, as you pointed out, those first two instances you pointed out of the vacation and the house are really bad looks, and it's going to raise questions and reinforce the arguments of a certain wing of the Republican Party that the money is being stolen. The money that we're giving them in aid is not getting there for the defense of the country. It's being used to enrich people in the Ukrainian government. And as you pointed out, Paul, I mean, it's a supremely bad look to, when your country is in an existential conflict, to be taking a vacation somewhere. I mean, I can't even begin to imagine Winston Churchill going down to the British Virgin Islands, while Hitler is pounding London. So, really bad. As far as the $1 billion, part of it is for depleted uranium shells, which are, really deadly pieces of artillery. During the Persian Gulf War, our M1A1 tanks used these, and we absolutely sliced and diced the Soviet-issue Iraqi tanks and pretty much we and the British destroyed them, and within about 48 hours, the Iraqis were surrendering. I'm not saying that that's going to happen in this case, but it can do really bad damage.
But if I ask anybody out there, you or anyone else, maybe even our congressional delegation, can you really give me an idea who's winning, who's losing? With any consistency or with any confidence at all that you're right?
It's tough, because you got to sort of sort out the facts from the propaganda, and both sides have every incentive to make their side sound like that they're winning. I think the consensus of journalistic reports are that Ukraine is making, and I cannot emphasize this enough, modest progress, very modest. There was a gain that was reported by, I believe, the AP on CNN on the southern front. Apparently, the Ukrainians have broken through the front lines of the Russian defense of the village of Robotyne in the Zaporizhia region, which is in the southeastern part of the country. What it looks like the Ukrainians are trying to do is head southeast towards the Sea of Azov coast in order to cut the land bridge between the areas.
Ukraine, not only to survive.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. To cut the land bridge between the Donetsk region and Crimea in hopes of cutting off Crimea and maybe eventually forcing the Russians out of there. The thing is, though, that there are several lines of defense, and while the first one was pretty formidable, it looks like the second one is even worse, filled with landmines, tank traps, trenches, World War I era stuff, but, still effective.
And I don't want to be redundant about this, but when we hear this, and I think it's very, when you start looking at some of the generals, retired generals who are on Fox News or CNN or MSNBC, and it's amazing because you can click one channel and you've got a general saying, "Man, we got to win this war. Everything needs to be poured into this. We have to get it done."
Right.
And then you change it to the next channel, and another five-star general is saying just the opposite. So you got to wonder if some of these people who are speaking, it's just simply because we don't trust people anymore.
Yeah.
Are they doing that because when we find out that they're also connected to some military infrastructure? As far as a consultant,
yeah,
their company that they're working for, and they're getting literally more money than they ever made in the military in retirement, and their company sells the tanks or something, or the rockets or the bullets.
Yeah, no, I hate to find that. I would hate to find that out. I put a lot of stock.
Well, we know that's a fact already, though.
Yeah, no, I put just listening to. The experts on, I think it's beyond that as well. I think that certain members of the military, retired members especially, have become very political as they've gotten out. I've got a friend of mine who served in the Arkansas National Guard, and he used to refer to, what was the guy's name? Wesley Clark as, quote, Clinton's general.
Yes.
Because he became very political. I think he actually ran for president as a Democrat.
He did. Yeah.
And, I personally put a lot of stock in what Jack Keane says on Fox. I like his analysis, and I'm pretty much in agreement with him on that. But, of course, I guess I'm looking at it a little bit from not just a scholarly perspective, but on a human level from a political perspective myself.
I'm a student as a baby boomer of the Vietnam conflict because I was lucky enough not have to go over there because of a knee problem. Thank goodness that I've bemoaned for a long time. But we followed that closely, all of us. We had friends over there. We had some who died over there.
Yeah.
So we watched that on the nightly news, and we were scared as hell that our number was going to come up. If it hadn't come up, or we were thankful as all get-outs that we didn't have to go. But that said, I say that because we follow that with an adult mind of understanding the consequences and knowing what was going on over there. And I can't imagine anybody from our country, any of the delegation that's been over there, almost as a tourist. We had Nancy Pelosi. We had GOP delegation go over there.
Yeah.
We had people flying in and out of the Capitol over there to meet with Zelensky in the middle of a war zone. And it just seemed, then we had some movie stars go over there. That wouldn't have happened across the demilitarized zone in Korea, nor would it have happened in Vietnam.
Yeah.
There are things that we just do not understand about this war. Then I also want to play a clip, and I want you to kind of dissect this clip for us. It's from the Secretary of State, and he's coming up in a moment or two, and I want you to hear this clip.
Okay.
He's talking about funneling millions and millions of more taxpayer dollars into helping them rebuild and also go green. I kid you not. In the IC with a good professor, Glenn Antizzo, professor of political science at Mississippi College. And a follow-up here, if you'll allow me, on Lance's idea of a catfish biscuit in the morning.
Ooh.
Cracker Barrel, according to David, Cracker Barrel has Uncle Herschel's all-you-can-eat catfish. Well, it says, wait a minute, hang on, I don't think it says all-you-can-eat. Uncle Herschel's catfish with eggs.
Catfish with eggs. Huh. I've
never had that.
Never heard of that. But hey, it's worth a shot. What do you?
Would that be fried or baked?
It's got to be fried.
Yeah,
I would imagine fried.
And Antizzo here is going to Mississippi State for a couple weeks in a row for football, then down to Baton Rouge for football. So he's going to have all the recipes. Tell somebody about the catfish biscuit breakfast.
Somebody was asking me about some of the food that we ate when we were on vacation toward the East Coast, and I said, well, we had some good seafood, of course, but the best meal I had was at a Cracker Barrel. It really was. Well, I let go for just the diet and had the Southern fried chicken with gravy. Woo! Slap your mama.
Hey, you're on vacation. You got it, right?
Yeah, that's where you let yourself go every once in a while. So, all right, I wanted to play this one for you as far as the Ukrainian, the Secretary of State having this, and I think this was yesterday, day before yesterday. Mm. But here it goes, and listen to this.
For Ukraine...
Wait a minute. I want you to, the audience to listen to this. With the idea in your background, look at the pictures of the sidewalks of New York, the sidewalks of San Francisco, and a multitude of other places out there. Look at the inner city. Litter all over the place. Glass doors boarded in with plywood. I mean, projects out there that are gutted. People walking around like Walking Dead on drugs. And America, right before our eyes, more so in the last 5 years, or 3 or 4 years, the last couple of years, falling apart like we've never seen it before. And then you hear this.
For Ukraine, not only to survive, but to thrive, we're also supporting its efforts to rebuild from Russia's aggression. At the Ukraine Recovery Conference held in London a few months ago, I pledged that the United States would invest more than $520 million in making Ukraine's energy infrastructure, more than half of which has been destroyed by Russia, cleaner, more resilient, and more integrated with Europe. We're making new investments to enhance the transparency of Ukraine's institutions and to bolster the rule of law so that Ukraine's democracy is even more responsive to the needs of its people and can attract the private capital needed to rebuild. We're engaged in assisting the government of Ukraine on anti-corruption efforts and on efforts to ensure accountability and full transparency of all the assistance we're providing, as well as the security of U.S.-provided defense articles and technologies.
I mean, your response to that, he made a commitment several months ago when he was over there, $520 million. I'm not sure what gives him the authority to make that commitment, and he may have misspoken at the administration, but he said he made a commitment to pledge $520 million.
Well, anything he did, obviously, he did with the president's approval.
I would hope.
Yeah. But having said that, I think he's going to have a huge argument from Governors Hochul and Newsom, who are absorbing, huge amounts of, illegal immigrants coming into the United States and, don't have the money to pay for them. As a matter of fact, New York City is starting to ship some of their illegals to upstate New York. My understanding is Albany and Buffalo are getting a good number of them now. I understand that you want to help them with the war effort, but, look, at a certain point, we can't take on everybody's responsibilities. And I realize that rebuilding is going to be a big thing. There's no reason why the private sector can't help them. There's no reason why the Europeans can't help them. My guess is that it will be a tremendous business opportunity for people to go in there, make a good deal, and try to get them, their infrastructure rebuilt. But this thing about rebuilding green. Does this agenda never stop?
No.
First there was building what was the Inflation Reduction Act, which was basically a lightly masqueraded green energy deal, and now you've got this overseas. I don't see how the American taxpayers are going to go for this, but unfortunately, Paul, a lot of people just don't pay attention to foreign affairs.
No, they don't.
So as a result, they may actually be able to do this with no political blowback because nobody will call them out on it.
John Kennedy said this, Senator Kennedy, and he said, this has got to be intentional because nobody can be screwed up like this without it being intended. And I'm talking about everything from the energy sector to the border, immigration, everything else. You have to do this intentionally. And I think I heard yesterday, it may have been on our fine program that comes on before this one, he took more Alaska territory off basis as far as drilling is concerned. We saw a couple of weeks ago he took some land acres off of literally. I think it was tens of thousands of acres from the Gulf of Mexico, as far as drilling is concerned, and to put more regulations on the ships that deliver that. So he's doing everything he possibly can. How can you not say that this guy is not connected somewhere or being compromised from China and Russia when you see these things?
Yeah. Well, also, it's almost become a religion on the left, this, devotion to green energy. And, look, I'm not saying that I don't want to breathe, clean air and that I don't want to drink clean water. I do. Yeah. But at the same point, you've got to understand that in a modern industrial economy, there really are not any reasonably available alternatives to fossil fuels at this moment. And when it's time for the market to make the turn, it will. Like you said, especially at a time where the Saudis have reeled back production and gasoline prices have gone up. And my understanding is the prices will be up through at least the end of the year.
It was $90 yesterday, I think the day before yesterday. I'm not sure what it is today. It
doesn't strike me as very wise to be, scaling back our production and making it harder to produce the energy the country needs.
But I mean, this is your bailiwick. I mean, you understand this, but when you look at what all of these things that are going across America, what one guy in the entire country who has been under indictment every other day, he is the main enemy of changing this. And you've got to stop him. You've got to stop him as far as the oil industry is concerned, the infrastructure or the military infrastructure. You have to stop him because of the power bases in corporations out there. China says you've got to stop him. You can go up and down the list. And this guy is the enemy of so many people. How in the world he's gotten to where he is, I have no idea.
Yeah.
I have no idea. Even somebody else said the only way to stop this guy is it's amazing he hasn't been shot yet.
Yeah, I think a large part of the reason he got elected in the first place is that his last name wasn't Trump, and people were turned off, by the way the president, was tweeting and conducting himself. But if you look back at his policies, I mean, they were in my opinion, they were pretty sound. And but the election turned, I thought, more on personality than on policy. And I think that there's a lot of buyer's remorse out there. You look at polls, and this president is at historic lows. People are also saying that he's far too old to be in office at this point. I'm not saying that there aren't people his age that aren't sharp. Actually, one of the smartest people I know is a few years older than him. But at the same time, it's clear that his mind is starting to slip.
Trump is not a lot younger than he is.
Right.
And, I mean, it's a world of difference. Look, but I want to go back with something you said as far as the character or how Trump conducted himself. This is one of the things that I cannot understand. Chris Christie.
Here's the bottom line. Someone's got to stop normalizing this conduct.
Can I ask you what conduct that is when you compare it side by side to this president? Even what he did yesterday, or was it the day before, with the war veteran, walks off the damn stage, which was idiotic. And number two, not wearing a mask when his wife has COVID. So I just want to know what was Chris Christie thinking when he said this, because I'd like to find out a reason not to vote for this guy if it's as bad as he's talking about. Back with the good professor. One more time on here.
Here's the bottom line. Someone's got to stop normalizing this conduct.
So I grew up following people like Richard Nixon and a guy who was certainly not polished around the collar, and that's LBJ. And I'm just wondering, what are we talking about? The way he talked to the media, the way he tweeted, any of those things, you put him in the category of whatever the president does, he's the president.
Right.
And now we're getting more and more information of what went on with Barack Obama. And some of that is not good. So has that narrative been just part of the character assassination of the president, of Donald Trump?
Well, to an extent, again, the Democrats like to sort of point that out, and in fairness, he sort of made it easy. I mean, some of the tweets were a bit over the top. Also, I think what hurt him in the 2020 election was the debate that he had against Biden,
no doubt.
where he was talking over Biden and
too aggressive. Yeah,
and Biden came across as sort of getting beat up on by him. So, I can understand why people might be a little put off by the style, but at the end of the day, the question is, what about the policies? And Biden largely got a pass, in my opinion, on the policy issues because his last name wasn't Trump.
This whole funding thing, we were talking about China and everything else, what happens if there's a Republican, and even if it's not Trump, if it's a Republican, this whole Ukrainian funding mechanism may fall apart also. So that's another reason that there's so much money out there to make sure Biden goes back in or somebody else.
I wonder also, as more of this Hunter Biden stuff comes out, and you have the video that's been shown repeatedly of Joe bragging about calling up the Ukrainians and saying, I'm going to hold back this aid unless you fire that prosecutor. I wonder if that is also going to, turn public opinion possibly. As the war goes on, people are getting tired of funding this. It's not in the newspapers as much anymore as it used to be. I find it because, it's my job. But a lot of other people have turned this off for now. In their minds. Yeah. But let me say this, Paul. Something that occurred to me. I don't know. I'm sure you've seen this. There is talk about a meeting between Putin and Kim, the dictator of North Korea, at Vladivostok, which is a city in southeastern Russia on the Pacific coast. And a lot of it has to do with getting arms from the North Koreans to help the Russian war effort. Evidently, just as Ukraine is having its munitions depleted, the Russians apparently are having theirs depleted, possibly even at an even faster rate, and are looking to get their hands on Soviet-style weaponry that the North Koreans have. The point I wanted to make in saying this is that maybe conventional wisdom is actually turning on its head. Maybe an extended war, which, a war of attrition was conventionally thought to be something that would be in the Russians' favor, given the size of the country. Perhaps an extended war of attrition can be won by Ukraine if the Western aid continues to flow. We're giving them better weapons, and I know that they're taking a lot of casualties, but it just seems to me that if the Russians are in that tough a shape, that they can't sustain the war effort.
This is a simplistic question, and I hope you don't take away any thoughts of me being lesser than I am.
Never.
What the hell do we care? In today, 2023, with where we are in our statute in the world, where we control things, as powerful as we were, as independent in oil and energy as we were under the last administration, we battled for 20-something years. And right after the Middle East, we took on Afghanistan.
Right.
It drug us down. It was like a rock on a lifeguard out there. So what happens if we strap Russia with that? We're free of a war. We're not engaged in any military conflicts. And they have the same problem with the Ukraine. So who cares? I mean, I shouldn't say who cares, but you know what I'm talking about. Is that something that we look at and says, is it worth us spending literally billions upon billions of dollars at a time when we need it?
Right. Well,
even if they decided to encroach a little bit more into Ukraine.
Right. Well, the problem is that I don't think that they're going to stop at Ukraine. There's already talk about the Russians trying to stir trouble up in Poland and Lithuania.
Well, but then we have NATO for that, and then you could activate that, could you not?
Well, you could, but obviously, I think you would probably want to try to avoid that kind of a conflict because
how do you avoid that by asking Ukraine to come into NATO?
Oh, okay. I get your point. I thought you were talking about in terms of just giving aid.
Yeah.
Let me just say this, though. I mean, you're keeping the Russians tied up. This is a policy that goes back to Reagan. The Reagan doctrine said that we will give you aid. We're not going to send any troops, but we'll give you aid. If you want your freedom, fight for it. Yeah, I think it worked in Nicaragua, and I think it worked in Cambodia, and it worked to an extent in Angola.
It's a different world, though.
Yeah. No, you're right.
Then. Always love these conversations. Don't be a stranger.
Me too. Absolutely not. I'll come back anytime you ask me.
More with